wanted to point out one thing real quick. When there are invisible forces set out to disrupt the flow of human life and to stifle us and to prohibit us from doing things, just remember their goal is to infuriate and disillusion you, but never to the point of action. They want to reel back and forth with the intensity of our interference and persecution to stop us from making any strides on doing anything progressive. They want to make everything unappealing and for us to all feel terrible if we ever have a good idea that we want to bring to fruition. They never want us, they never want any of our good plans or ideas to come to fruition whatsoever. And this ultimately all, of course, will mean silent suffering without any meaning or closure. They want us all reaching for that grasp of meaning or purpose that we never are able to fulfill. And it's just a damn shame, because upholding normal and our a homeostasis, it is important, but so is healing and catharsis, and that simply is not going to happen until these vicious cycles and these toxic patterns break. And they're not going to break easily and without fallout, I'm thinking. It's going to create a domino effect, and a lot of things are going to be exposed and revealed, and it's going to be quite stressful and maddening to think that we're all still so out of whack, and there's still such a communication barrier in the world, and there's an even bigger comprehension barrier in the world. People just don't get things. Even if me and you get it, it's not to say that they will. Even if it makes perfect sense to us, it may be like, me trying to read Chinese or something. It just wouldn't compute with me. Pretty much anybody that awakens and gains insight on this event happening and what it means, you're going to be more alienated. It's not easy to come together on anything or to agree on any points. It doesn't mean that there aren't people that would agree with you and that will. It's just a matter of finding the other people, finding common ground, because it's all designed for us to be so different, so disconnected internally, but forced to be near each other, tolerating each other, and in many cases accepting abuse and torment as an inevitability. But that's bullshit. There has to be a way for us to come together more easily on this, because this is not designed for us to all suffer through alone, ultimately. And living in that false reality is kind of a necessary evil for many people, but ignorance is not blissful to me. It's better to get a handle on it. This is survival of the fittest, ultimately. It's just the psychological warfare and the tactics that are going to lead to a more distressing time period than ever before. That is quite real in terms of the horrific effects that we're set to receive. It's never going to be explained to people, though, but it's definitely worth it, I think, just to suffer more short-term than have that long-term suffering as your long-term future. Every day above ground on this earth is a test that most are unaware that they're even taking, hence their poor behavior and their lack of accountability. Many people, because of the way that this system of life is constructed, they've benefited from it simply because they haven't gotten any real-world effects for their terrible behavior. They've been conditioned into a lack of accountability that's going to be swiftly answered for, I believe, and it'll never stand out to them. It'll take them off guard, and the way that this is orchestrated by the orchestrators of our misery is to be a quick end to people's lives that they don't anticipate, or even if they do, they can't do anything to stop it. Basically, what people need to do is realize that there's no do-overs in life. We're going to have to acknowledge the past at some point, and eventually the signs of population control and genocide happening are going to be more obvious. It'll stand out to us more when there's less people in our midst and we don't have a good, solid answer as to why they're not here. I guarantee if every department in this world was, if they were approached and inquired about missing persons cases that haven't been solved, I bet that would be a whole headache for every department in the world, especially the department closest by to me. But I'll leave it at that. It's all a matter of seeming and being. I'm quite miserable a lot of the time, quite depressed, but I know one thing: I'm not nearly as depressed and miserable as these pieces of shit want me to be. This whole thing's designed to bring us down and to bog us down, and while it does, it certainly motivates me, and it hasn't made me any less able to think, being constantly interfered with, and they manipulate my mind and do things like that remotely. It's gotten so bad that I've just adapted to it, and it's part of my daily struggle. It is what it is. But many have been conditioned into never speaking up about anything that bothers them. It's become a theme in the world, is that we're just never going to be forthright, never going to be comfortable enough to have that scary talk about what the world really means. It's about time that we experience a little bit more fear. I think people do need to be a little bit more freaked out. The way that the enemy uses fear is to inspire doubt and to stop action. I think there's a right type of fear inspiration that needs to take. It's called the fear of God, and I think that needs to be implemented more clearly, and I think people need to recognize that this is all just a silly smokescreen that's just not really fooling the intelligent people. It's just torturing us and keeping us limited in our actions, which is crazy, because I don't feel that limited in terms of my mental ability. I'm just limited in terms of my scenery and my environment. That's forever going to be a limiting thing. It's just not easier to find good people on this planet and to coordinate and direct the right energy. It's not easy to. It's going to take more work and effort than anybody's put in so far, I feel like. But at the end of the day, it's going to surprise people when they wake up, and they're going to have to change their tune dramatically and quickly to even try to save face, because the level of evil in this world and what it's driven people to do is it's just completely ludicrous. I can't even get into the details specifically right now of what I happen to know deep down about the world. It's just that disturbing and twisted, and it's not something that most people can even indulge and still be a normal person and function and think. You know, it takes a certain type of individual to be real and direct and still be able to hack it as a human being on this planet. But I do believe that many people are going to end up growing a stronger backbone when faced with adversity. Once they awaken to the vulnerable state of the world and what human society has become, it will make them more humble, and it will make them more likely to, you know, make a good turn towards their fellow man rather than stab them in the back like the devil wants us to do. This is ultimately all a big ploy to change our behavior gradually, and they have assimilated many people into this mind state. And it's so odd because you don't always see it with people. If I was somebody else who didn't know what I know and know what to look for, it would probably fool me and shock me to learn a lot about the people in my midst too. But I see what it is, and it's literally a game of life where human beings are turned on and off with this manipulation. And it literally, people are not the same behind closed doors. That's when you don't see them. That's when idle hands become the devil's plaything. Too much information becomes the devil's plaything. And then we have a whole world that is basically becoming Satan's army, more or less, in the most subversive and weird way possible. It's just a assimilation that is taken all across the board, and it's a toxicity that is spread like wildfire, and it's an epidemic that we don't talk about, so we'll never see any real results on. It's just going to be a stifled, stilted way of the world until more people like me are able to come together and we're able to form an ideology on this, because this is a spiritual event, a spiritual phenomenon that was predicted in the Bible and the Quran and by people many years ago. This is the time period that we're living in that we need to go ahead and call what it is. A spade can be called a spade now, I think it's safe to say that the world's weird enough to where we wouldn't feel too weird about acknowledging that it's not normal and that we're shifting in a direction. But anywho, I wish everybody the best. Peace.